Okay, welcome back. So in this video, we will cover the client-side code. So we'll create the page and the components and complete the UI part and complete our application. Okay, so I'm in this folder. So let me create a new React app. Okay, so I'm just going to create here app and I'm just going to name this as a client. Okay, and I'm just going to add the TypeScript. Okay, so here let's wait for us to install this package.json. Okay, so if you see here it's installing, so let's wait for it to install react DOM and all other dependencies. And also after this I'll be adding the Tailwind CSS support too. So once this gets done, I will add that. Okay, it's almost done. Okay, so yep, so if you see, it has almost completed. Fine. So it is configured as the TypeScript and other things too. So now, as I said, I'll be adding the, so let's go to the client folder and let me add this Tailwind CSS. Okay, so install dev dependencies. I'm just going to add Tailwind CSS. So if you see here, now we should have, yep, Tailwind CSS, and let's create the tailwind.config.js file. Okay, so like this, Tailwind CSS, initialize it. So if you see here, okay, so here let's add the content types for which the Tailwind CSS should be applicable to. Okay, and here we'll add the additional configurations for this. So let's first complete this thing. So here the content, it's going to be this whatever present in our source folder. So all things I'm going to include. Okay, so whichever it's ending with the JS, then TS and TSX and JSX files. Okay, so in that this would be applicable, and I want to set the dark mode to class, so I don't want by default the dark thing. Okay, so fine, and here we're going to extend the themes here. So let's do it right away, so I don't want to do it later. So in this extend, I'm just going to add the screens. Here I'm just going to change the, for extra small, the pixel as 475 pixel. Okay, and then rest I'm going to keep the default thing. So let me install that default theme. Okay, so that is import default theme from Tailwind CSS default theme. Okay, fine. So here I'm just going to extend those things, so remaining will remain same, just the extra small size is going to change to whatever we have configured here. Okay, and here let's add the colors too. So colors, I'm just going to add the neutral color. So here I'm just going to get the colors from our Tailwind colors. Okay, so here import colors from Tailwind CSS / colors. Okay, so I'm just going to have the, for neutral, the slate color. Okay, fine, and then the font family. So let me font family, let's add the lato. Okay, so here lato, and then I'm adding the sans serif. Okay, and then roboto. So here I'm just going to add the roboto family. So and this sans serif, fine. Okay, then let's add the animation effect for our text. Okay, so I'm just going to add here the for the text. Okay, so here I'm just going to give the 10 seconds animation and the ease, and infinitely I want this animation to be active. Okay, and for keyframes of text, let's change the background size and background position. So here after this keyframes, so I'm just going to add for 0% to 100% this position. So here, so for 0% and 100%, I'm going to add this background size. Okay, so background size I want it to be 200%, and here 200%. Okay, fine. And now the position, so here let's change the position to left and center. Okay, fine. And for 50%, let's have the background size the same, and but the background position is going to be right center. Okay, so here I'm just going to add this, and this background position I'm just going to make the alignment towards right. Okay, so here, yep, so these are the keyframes. That's it. So after this I want to include the Daisy UI plugin, so let's install this Daisy UI. So installing Daisy UI. Okay, fine. So it's installed, so let me import that Daisy UI. So plugins, I'm just going to add this Daisy UI. Okay, fine. And let's make the theme of that light color. So I'm just going to change here the dark theme to light. Okay, and variance, I'm just going to leave it as just default. Okay, fine. So this is the Tailwind configuration. Fine, now we are good with the Tailwind CSS configurations and no need to do anything of this. So first let's go to our file here. So first let's run this React app. Okay, fine. So if you just see, let's wait for it to compile. Okay, so the application is starting. Fine. So now we will remove the all the boilerplate code whichever we don't need, and try to get things done. Okay, so here first thing, let's get started. So here I'm going to create a new folder. So let's say it has something like pages. Okay, so I'm just creating a pages, and in this I'm going to create a one new file, so which I'm going to name this as like home.tsx. Fine. So here let's create the component that, so here const home, and so I'm just going to return the div. So I'm just going to return div and add the header inside this, saying that I am home page. Okay, so here and we will install this React router thing for adding our the navigation to our application. So let me install the React router DOM. Okay, so now we have just the, okay, so I'm just going to install that. So now going to our client folder, I am installing the React router DOM. Okay, fine. So now what we will do, let's configure the routes for our application. So for that, let's aggregate as a separate folder. So I'm just going to create here the routes, and inside this I'm just going to create a new file, the index.tsx. Fine. So in this, let's use the create browser router from our React router DOM. Okay, so I'm just going to here have this router thing, and I'm just going to use the create browser router, and here I'm going to add the paths. Okay, so path the home page. Okay, I'm just going to keep this element as this our home component. So I don't think so I have exported that, so let's export this. Okay, now going here, I'm just going to import that. Okay, so here, yep, so this is the router. So now let me configure this. Okay, export default router. Okay, fine. So after this, let's go back to our home, which the app.tsx file. Okay, so here I'm just going to take off everything here. I'm just here whatever the default is added, just taking it off, and I'm just returning the router provider. So here let's have this from our React router DOM, and add this router. Okay, so yep, so now yep, now if I see, I should be able to see this is like a home page. Okay, so if you refresh, okay, fine, so home page is added, and let's, and also, okay, in index.css file I'm supposed to add this tailwinds directives. Okay, so here I'm just going to add those things here by removing here this thing. So tailwind base, okay, and tailwind components, and tailwind utilities. Okay, so fine. Now let's try to add this in the home page. Okay, I'm just going to add here the class name as text file xl. Okay, now if you check, okay, so it's working, so fine. And now after this, let's get started with the first configuring the Axios, and that, so we have written API, so we'll have to consume that. So let's install the Axios. Okay, so I'm just going to install the Axios. Okay, and let's configure that. So I'm just going to create a separate utils folder for that. Okay, so let's create a separate folder called utils. Okay, and inside that I'm just going to create here one file called axios.ts. Okay, fine, and here I'm just going to create have the base URL. So here base URL, that this is the HTTP, okay, localhost, and the 8000 slash API. Okay, so this is our base URL. Okay, so let me create an object of the Axios. Okay, and here Axios, so let me import Axios lib. So just on top I'm just going to import Axios lib from Axios. So now I'm just going to create using the base URL. Okay, fine, so I'm just going to export this. Okay, so after this, let's configure the services. Okay, so which is very simple. So just let's create a new folder for services. Okay, I'm just going to name this as image.service.ts. Okay, so here I'm just going to name the first service as generate image. So this is going to take a data which will be having the type prompt, and those that is of type string. Okay, and the onMove variable is size, which is also type string. Okay, so here I'm just going to have this Axios from the util function which we just created. So here I'm just going to make the post call, and the endpoint is slash image slash generate. Okay, so and pass in the data, and then and the here in the response, okay, I'm just going to return the response. Okay, fine, and if any error, I'm just going to return the error. So this is the generate image service. Okay, and similarly we'll create the service for our fetch images. So this is going to receive the page which is of type number and the limit. So by default I'm going to set it to 8 as a query params. Okay, so I'm just going to call this endpoint, so that is slash image slash all and the query params. So page is going to be page, and the limit okay, fine. So after this in the callback, let's handle that. So if any response, we are just going to return the response. If not, error. Okay, so this is the fetch images service. Okay, now let's create an object which will have those two services. So image, I'm just going to name this as image service. So here generate image, and then fetch images. Okay, so I'm just going to export this image service. Okay, fine. So now the service configuration is done, and the route is also done. So just we'll have to focus on building the UI part. So let's focus on first the header. So I'm just going to name the that as separate component. So let's create a folders for that. So I'm just going to create here components folder. So first thing, as I said, header. So let's create the header component. So header dot tsx. Okay, so in that we should have the DALI GAN AI text and the just GitHub icon. Okay, so let's quickly create the component. So const header. Okay, so I'm just focusing on rendering the UI now. So let's wrap everything inside our header tag. Okay, first is the nav thing. So let's add the styling for this. Let's make the background as white, and I want the border to be gray color. So let's add it as 200, and the padding x direction 4. Okay, if it's a larger screen, we'll give more padding, so let's give 6. Okay, and the padding direction, let's make it as 3. Okay, fine. So first div, inside this div I'm just going to add the text for our title. So that is DALI GAN AI. So I'm just going to make this as a flex, and make this as a flex wrap, and justify I want to be between. So okay, and then the items as centered, and margin x auto. So and the maximum width, I'm just going to make this as Excel. Okay, fine. So here as I said, I'm just in header tag, I'm just going to add the text. So for now, let's not worry about the styling. So I'm just going to give the title here, DALI GAN AI, and try to export this component, and use this inside our use it in our home component. Okay, so first I'm just going to export this header. Okay, so now going to our home, let's use this inside this thing. So first okay, so what I'll do, I'll just remove this. Okay, so here I'm just going to use the header component. Okay, so now let's try to check it out. let's me refresh this. Okay, so it's there, so I didn't style it, so we will style this. Okay, so first okay, after this so let's style that. Okay, fine. I'm just going to animate the text. Okay, so let me do that. So sorry, inside this class name. Okay, I'm just going to animate the text. Okay, and I want the text to be centered. Okay, and background gradient, so we'll change the color to right. Okay, so direction. Okay, fine. So this is the color from teal 500, then the via purple, let's give it as 500. Okay, and to orange. So this is, let's make this as 500. Okay, and the background I want to be clip text, and let's make the text as transparent, and the text size, let's make this as 5 times XL. Okay, and if it's a small, I want this to be 7XL, and the font, let's make this as black. Okay, fine. So now let's check this out. So yep, so this is the styling for our title, DALI GAN AI. Okay, so after this, so let's complete the remaining part inside our header component. So just after this I'm going to have here one more div. So I'm going to make this as a flex, and items are centered, and if it's a larger screen, let's have this order as 2. Okay, and the gap I want to give here 3. Okay, so here we will have here the GitHub link, so which is going to redirect to the repo that we will be building this project in. So here for now I'm just going to not going to give any URL. Okay, so in this I'm just going to say here for now we should add the SVG here. So okay, so and give the styling for this. Okay, I'm going to add the margin left 4, and it's hidden, and then if it's small I want the display to be block. Okay, so here I'm just going to add the text as GitHub SVG, so which we will add eventually. Fine, so now let's check this. Okay, so here let's make this inside this div, so that now if we check, okay, yep, so here I'll add the SVG. Fine for now. So now going to the home section. So after this the header thing, the thing is we have to display the title like kind of like text to image with DALI GAN AI. Okay, and those thing. So I'm just going to add that. So just below this header I'm going to create a new div. So let's add the styling for this. So I'm going to make this container, and have the margin X as auto. Okay, and the max width that it can take is the XL. Okay, of screen. Okay, and give the padding X direction as 2. Okay, fine. Now here I'll have the text here. The text as like text to image with DALI GAN AI. Okay, so now let's check this thing. So if we go to our thing, yep, so now let's give the styling for this header. Okay, so this one, so I'm just going to give the styling for this. So let's have the margin top 16, and have the padding bottom 7, and if it's a smaller screen, let's increase the margin top to 20, and then we'll have the same thing, animate text, and the text should be centered. Okay, and had the background gradient color, so to right. Okay, and from teal I'm just going to give here the 500, and via purple, so let's give that also the something like medium, so 500, and 2 orange 500. Okay, so here let's have the background, the clip text. Okay, then the text I'm going to make this transparent, and text size we're going to keep it as a 5 times XL, and if it's a smaller screen, let's have it as a 7 XL, and the font type to be black. Okay, so now let's check it out. Okay, fine, now it's looking good. So text to image with the Delhi GAN AI, fine. Okay, now going back, after this text we'll have the content, which is going to say in a line about our application. So I'm going to wrap inside the p tag and give the styling for this as the text center. So I have this text noted in my note section, so let me take that from there. So here I'm just going to take this text. Okay, fine, so let me go back here. I'm just going to use this. So if we go to our so fine, now the text is added. So after this we are supposed to have a div which is going to take the input from our user. Okay, and the size selector, like a kind of, which will allow the user to select the size, like small, medium and large thing. Okay, so let's focus on that part now. So after this paragraph, so I'm just going to add one more div. So let's give the styling for this. So max width it can take is screen XL. Okay, and give the margin top 10 and also margin X to auto. Okay, fine. So here inside this I have multiple divs. Okay, so first the div, let's give the styling here margin bottom 6. Okay, and make this as a flex, and space y direction I'm going to give it as a 5, and direction, okay, it's going to be column, and if it's a small I will make this as row. Okay, and if it's a small, let's make the items as baseline. Okay, fine, and similarly if it's a small, let's give the space in x direction 5. Okay, so here now this div is for our input, so let's make this as flex, and width full. Okay, and make this as a row, and space x direction 2. Okay, and items I want to be centered. Fine, now I'm going to add this input. Okay, so this is going to be type text. Okay, and here value will have to maintain one variable for this. So for now I'm just going to say it as a prompt. Okay, we will define these variables for this. Okay, so here the placeholder, it's going to be something like, describe what you want the AI to draw. Okay, fine, and here on change we'll have to update our variable value. So for now I'm just going to keep this as empty function, and the styling for this, so let's make this as a block and give width full, padding 4 in all directions, and the text color I want to make it as a gray. So let's give it as like little darker, 700. Okay, and have the border for this, and the border color I want it to be gray, so let's make this as a 300. Okay, so and rounded, let's make this as a large, and the background, let's make this as a gray color, so lighter gray, like 50. Okay, if it's a small screen, I want text to be medium sized. Okay, and if it's a focus, I want the ring color to change to blue, so let's make this 500. Okay, and the focus, I want the border color to be purple, so here let's make this border purple, like medium color. Okay, fine, so this is the input thing. So now let's try to check this output. Okay, fine, so you see here, this is the thing. So now the border is changing color. Okay, focused. Okay, fine, now let's focus on the size selector. Okay, so I am going to create a separate component for that. So let's create a separate component for that. So I'm inside our components folder. So let's name this as size selector. Okay, so it's size selector dot tsx. Fine. So let's create that component. So size selector. Okay, so here let's define the props for this component. So I'm just going to define the props. So I'm just going to name this as size selector props. Okay, and value, let's this have property string, and the on value change, I'm just going to update the value. Okay, so this is going to receive the string as the input param. Okay, and return, so we're just going to return this. Okay, so let me destructure this. So value and on value change, so from our size selector props. Okay, fine. So here, as I said, the one variable to keep track of to open this or not. Okay, so here set open, so I'm just going to set by default to false. So let's set the value by default to false. Okay, fine. And the functions to open and close this thing, so that let's write the functions for that. So which is handle open. So here quickly let's set open value to true, and similarly let's write function to close this. So handle close, I'm just going to set open to false. Okay, fine. Now let's focus on the UI part. Okay, so here let's wrap everything inside div. So let's make this as relative, and I want this to be inline block. Okay, and the text to be left aligned. Okay, so here first thing is the button. So inside this div I'm just going to wrap the button. Okay, so here this is of type button, and on click I'm just going to call this our handle open button, sorry, function. Okay, and the styling for this, let's make this as inline flex, and give width full, and the margin top let's give it as a 0, and the justify let's make it as centered, and the gap I want to be 1.5. okay, and let's make the corners as rounded medium, and background color let's make this as white. Okay, and the padding x direction 3, and in the padding y direction let's make this as like 1.12 rems. Okay, we can change this later if you wanted. Okay, and let's make the text color text size small, and type I'm going to make this as a semi bold. Okay, and the text color I'm making it as a gray, darker gray. Okay, and give the shadow for this small shadow, and have the ring effect. So I'm just going to add this, and then the ring insert, and change the ring color to gray color. So let's make this 300. Okay, and hover effect, let's change the background color. So let's change the background to lighter gray color. Okay, so this is the styling for this button. So here it's going to be the value, so whatever we pass into this component. Okay, fine. After this we'll have the SVG, so kind of like downward arrow mark. Okay, that I'm going to add. Okay, so after this here as I said SVG, so let's add this, and I'm going to give styling for this. Okay, but I'm just leaving it as it is now. After this div, let's have the div to display the size options that user can select. Okay, so that is it small, medium, or large. Okay, so let's wrap everything inside one more div, and here let's make this as dynamic based on open value. Okay, so here if it's open, I want the display to be block. If not, I want this to be hidden. Okay, fine. So after this, let's make this as absolute positioned and right 0. Okay, and z index make it as a 10, and margin top let's add 2, width give 56, and have the origin top right. Okay, and I want this rounded to be medium, so let's make this as a medium. Okay, and the background, let's make this as white and give the shadow color large. Okay, fine, and make this ring effect, and ring I want the color to be black. Okay, and opacity for this, it's going to be something like 5. Okay, and the focus, I want no outline to be highlighted, so outline none. Okay, and have this transition. Okay, and ease out. Okay, duration, let's make this as 300. Okay, fine. So this is the styling for this div. After this, let me close this. Okay, so let's have the unordered list, and the styling for this, let's have the padding y direction 1, and role I want to be none. Okay, here let's define the constants image sizes. So for that, we will define one separate file called constants, where we'll have the 3 image sizes, which is small, medium, and large, 256 and this 1024 and those things. Okay, so let me define that inside our I'm going to define a new folder called constant. Okay, and I'm just going to define this inside that constant. Okay, here inside this index.ts file, so let's export this list. Okay, so I'm just going to name this as image sizes. Fine, and here first thing, this will have the label. So label, it's going to say small, and the size is 256 cross 256. Okay, and the value is going to be small. So let's do the same for the other two. So label, this is going to be medium, which is of size 512 cross 512. Okay, so here value, it's going to be medium. Okay, and the last label, it's going to be large, which is 1024 cross 1024. Okay, and the value for this, it's going to be large. Okay, so yep, so now let's make use of this inside our size selector. So here now I'm just going to import that. Okay, and here let's make use of this image sizes and map through that each of the label. Okay, so let's get the size here, and inside list, let's have the key to be the size dot value. Okay, and the styling for this, so this, let's make it as a dynamic based on if value is equals to the size dot value. So I'm going to change the background color. So here I'm just going to make this background as gray. Okay, and add this lighter gray, and the text also to gray color, so darker gray. Okay, fine. If not, I'm just going to have the text as a gray color, so sun under. Okay, fine. So this has to be inside this. So let's take this. Okay, fine. So after this, let's make this display as block. Okay, and the padding x direction 4 and the padding y direction make it as a 2, and the text size, let me make this as a small, and cursor I want it to be pointer. Okay, fine. And this on click, I'm just going to here call the function on value change and pass in this sizeout value, and then I'm going to call this handle close functions. Okay, fine. So here after this, we're just going to have the text as size dot label. Okay, so this is the component for size selector. So I'm just going to export this default size selector. Okay, so let's try to make use of it inside our home component now. So going there, just after this input, let me try to have this size selector. Okay, so here value, it's going to be the size value. So for now, let's make this, we'll have to pass in the dynamic variable here. I will configure that, and here on value change, here this function, I just have to update the size here. So let's do one thing. So let's first define the variable for that. So I'm just going to create a state variable for this. So it's going to be size value, and this callback function to change this is set size value, and use state. Okay, and default I'm going to set this to the small. Okay, fine. Now here instead of this, I'm just going to pass in this value as size value, and here in the callback I'm just going to change this to this. Okay, so and I'm going to close this. Fine. So now we have added this size selector. Let's check this out. Okay, fine. Here I know we'll have to add the SVG, which we will. And here if you see, on clicking on this, we are able to change, and accordingly whatever the value is there, it's reflecting. Okay, so I'll add the SVG. Okay, fine. Let me add the SVG first. So I'll be adding SVG. So let me go to this size selector. Okay, here instead of this, I'll take the SVG which I have here. It's the notes section. So let me take this. Okay, so I'm just going to replace this with the SVG. Okay, so now let's check this out. Okay, so going to our UI, let me refresh this. Okay, so here there is maybe there is some. Okay, let's not worry about the styling now. Okay, so going to our the home section. So here I'm just going to continue the remaining part. So after this we will have the button. So just after this div, I'm just going to create the button which is going to say a generate thing. Okay, so this is going to be of type button, and on click we will have to configure the function which is going to generate an image. So first let's focus on whatever the variables and the things needed for this page. So I'm just going here, I'm just going to define the things needed for this. First we would want to see whether the image is like when the user clicks on this generate button, we wanted to keep track of whether it's in process of generating or it's not. Okay, so for that I'll have one variable. Okay, so let me name this as like is generating. So set is generating, and by default we'll set it to the false. Okay, and after this we'll have the image model state, that is it will have the image source open and prompt that we should be showcasing. So this I'm going to have this. Okay, so image model state, and set image model state. Okay, fine. So here we'll make use of the use state here. So this is going to be of type image model state. So let's define the types again inside our separate folder. So let's define here inside the source. I'm going to define them as types. Okay, so let's define new file here, like types.ts. Okay, fine. So first thing, this let's export to this interface, which is I'm going to name this as image model state. Okay, so this is going to be image source, which can be of type string or null. Okay, so after this we'll have the open, so which is going to be of type boolean, and then the prompt, so which is of type string. Okay, so now let's make use of this inside here. So this is going to be of type image model state. So image model state. Okay, so let's initially set this image source to null, and open, I'm just setting this to false. Okay, and prompt to empty string. Okay, so these are the default values. Okay, fine. After this, we need one variable to keep track of the prompt that the user is entering. Okay, so let's have that, so which is prompt, and set prompt, and I'm going to initialize to empty string. Okay, fine. And also if there is any error happened while we are trying to generate, we need to keep track of that. Okay, so let's create one more variable for that. So I'm naming that as error model open. So here set error model open. Okay, so I'm just going to set this to the false initially. Okay, fine. So now the main thing, so the function which is going to help us generate the image for us. Okay, so I'm just going to name this as generate image. Okay, so let's make this as asynchronous. Okay, so inside the try catch block, let's first set is generating to true. Okay, fine. And after this, let's try to get the response from our service. So that is image service dot generate image, and pass in the body for this, which is the prompt, and then the size. So size here, it's going to be size value. Fine. So once we send that, so let's set the is generating to false back. Okay, and now let's check if the response dot status is equals to 201, or the response dot status is equals to 200, then we are going to get the image URL from this. So which is going to be response dot data dot dot image URL. Okay, fine. After this, I'm going to set the image model state to whatever the previous existing things to the add this thing, and add this new image source with the image URL. Okay, and then the open as true, and then the prompt, set the prompt here. So okay, fine. So this is the thing. So if not, if there is status code is other than that, so I'm just going to set error model to true. So it's going to showcase that there is some problem. Okay, something like that. And after this, inside the catch block, if there is any error, I'm just going to set the error model open to true. Okay, so there is an issue here. So now let's try to go to this generate image. So there is an issue with the type, so TypeScript is throwing an error for us. So what we will do here is let's continue. So let's check it out. Okay, I'm just going to mention this as any. Okay, let me go to that. So here generate, right? So here I'm just going to mention this as sorry, let's change directly inside our service. Okay, so here I will try to provide this as promise of type any. So let's do one thing. Here inside our TSX, okay, let me figure that out. Okay, so here what I'll do, I'll just mention here the type as any, so that we don't have to worry about the things existing on this response variable. Fine. So now the core logic needed for us is configured. So now let's continue on the UI part, the thing. So here for the button thing, on click, I'm just going to call this generate image function. So here I'm just going to generate image. Okay, I mean call that, and the styling for this. So here let's have the import to add the dynamic classes for this. No, the class names dependency. So I'm just going to install this class names. Sorry, it is small n. Okay, so now let me import class names class from that. So here class names, and here let's give styling for that using that class names. Okay, so here now, okay, first thing, let's make the text color as white, and button, okay, and capitalize this, and I want no border. Okay, and I had the gradient to right, and the same the from purple 500 to let's change the color to pink. Okay, and hover effect, let's have the hover effect, like I will be changing the gradient towards left direction. So here and here let's have the focus, the ring to be added, so ring effect. Okay, and focus, I don't want the outline to be highlighted, so I don't want outline border, so none. Okay, and focus, let's give the purple color, and if we are in a dark mode, let's change the focus to ring purple. Okay, to 800. Okay, fine, and let's make the font type as a medium, and the rounded I'm going to make it as large, and give the text size as small, and the padding x direction, let's give it as a 5. Okay, and padding y direction 2.5. fine. and let's make the position of the text as center. So fine, so here after this let's add the button disabled based on button disabled if prompt is empty. Okay, so here and loading is depending upon is generating value. Okay, so after this let's have the content of this button as if it's generating. Okay, so I am going to have the text change it to the generating. Okay, so if not, I'm just going to say the text of this button as generate. Okay, so now let's check this output. Okay, fine, so this is the thing here. Okay, we didn't change here, so let me have this here change here. So it's going to be value, it's going to be prompt, and here I'm just going to call this set prompt function. So here it's going to be set prompt e dot target dot value. Okay, so now let's check it out. So okay, yep, so now it's activated and it's there is focus and the gradient color. Okay, fine, now it's fine. So let's continue this. So button is also looking good. So just after that let's have the below this the input text box. We should try to showcase some text like no inspiration to write your own prompt, so you want me to generate random prompt from my side, so let me that configuration. Okay, so just outside this div I'm just going to create one more div. So let's give the padding left 1. Okay, so here inside header 2 I'm just going to give the text. Okay, give the styling for this. So I want this to be inline block. Okay, and give the margin right 2, and the font type let's make this as a bold, and the text I'm going to make this as a small. Okay, and if it's a small screen, let's make the text to be base. Fine, so inside this the text I wanted to show is no inspiration, and so I'm just going to have this thing. So let's see this now. Yep, so this is the thing. So inspiration and try an arrow mark, and here we'll have the one button which is going to auto populate this prompt with the whatever the random thing that we are using. Okay, fine, so after this h2 tag I will have the button. Okay, so let's give the styling for this, make this as a button and the button as extra small. Okay, and if it's a small I want the button to be small. Okay, and button to have this outline, and let's capitalize this. Okay, fine, here on click I would have to set the prompt. Okay, so here we will write one helper function which is going to take the one of the prompts from the predefined list that I'm going to add now. So first let's define that function. Okay, so I'm going to create inside our utils folder. So here let me create here one file called index.ts. okay, so here I'm going to create a one function called get a surprise prompt. Okay, so here, okay, so let's have the input param for this as of type string. Okay, and this is going to give us the return the string. Okay, fine, so here first let's have the random index. So here random index I'm going to create using the math floor, and math dot random into the length of our prompts list. Okay, so that prompts list I will define inside our constant file. Okay, here, so let me create that list. Okay, I'm just going to name this as prompt list. Okay, so I have this list of predefined prompts. Let me take that from my notes section. So here these are the prompts I'm talking about, so I'll take this. Okay, so here I'm just going to use them. So now going back to our the index.ts, I'm just going to multiply with the length of our the prompts list. Okay, so this is going to be prompts list dot length. Okay, fine. So here let's get the random prompt. Okay, so random prompt is going to be the prompts list of the random index. Fine. And if random prompt is equals to prompt. Okay, so I'm just going to return get surprise prompt. Okay, so making sure the same thing will be returning. Okay, so I'm just going to return this random prompt. Okay, fine. So now let's go back to our thing. So here in this thing, now I'm just going to call that function. So here set prompt to get surprise prompt and pass in the prompt thing. Okay, fine. So here I'm just going to add the text for this as surprise me. Okay, so now let's check this. So going to this, now you see we have this thing. So clicking on this, it should populate the text box with the one of the prompt from the list of the prompts we have provided. So clicking this, okay, now if you see it's populating, and clicking this it's changing. So you see, so dynamically we are able to use the list of the prompts that we have and populate inside our the input thing. Okay, so input box. So now let's continue. So here after this all divs, I'm going to have here the one component which is going to showcase us the list of the images that we have generated using the prompts. Okay, so this is going to be a separate component that we will exclusively build to showcase the list of the images. So inside the components I'm just going to build add the new file, so called something like, let's say, explore. Okay, so explore.tsx. okay, fine. So here I'm going to focus on building this component. So let's name this as explore, and the input props, let's define the props for this. So interface image model props. Okay, so here I'm going to make this as callback dispatch thing. So set image model state. So this is going to be of type dispatch. Set state action of type image model state. Okay, so I'm just closing this. So here let's destructure that. Set image model state. So this is coming from our image model props. Okay, fine. So now here, as I said, here we'll have some local state variables which is going to store the list of the generated images and and the thing like if you're fetching or not, okay, from our DB so service. Okay, and the page value, so it will be by default 1, and then we will know whether it's ended or not. Okay, so that is, a list is ended or not, so those things. So let's define the variables for that. So thing here, first is the generated images, so set generated images list. Okay, this is going to be of type use state. Here I'm going to make this of type I'm going to define the type for this inside our types. Okay, so here let me define for this the type. Okay, this will have the ID, so which is of type string. Okay, and the prompt, which is of type string. Okay, and the image URL string. Okay, and created at, so fine. So these are the things this model type will have. So now going to our this, so this is going to be a list of this model, so image model. So okay, so initially I'm going to set to the empty array. Fine, so now the thing is, are we fetching in it or not? So is fetching in progress or not? So here set is fetching, so I'm going to set this by default to false. Fine, so next is the page number, so set page by default, as we know, it's going to be 1, so I'm just going to set this as 1, and then this the list ended or not, so this is for that. So set is ended, so I'm just going to set to false by default. Okay, fine. Now let's try to fetch the list of the images using our fetch images service. Okay, so let's define that function, so const fetch. Okay, so let's make this as asynchronous. Okay, here inside try catch block, first I'm going to set is fetching to true. Okay, fine, and let's get the response. So await the image service dot fetch images, so I'm just going to pass in the page thing. So here if response dot status, I'm just going to make this of type any. Okay, so if response dot status is equals to 201, or this response dot status is equals to 200, I'm just going to get the images, which is of type image list. So here from this response dot data dot data, okay, or else I'm just going to set this to the empty array. Okay, so here I'm going to set is ended if the images dot length is equals to 0. Okay, fine, and here set generated images, we are going to update this with the whatever values we received from this thing. So here I'm going to have one function which is going to remove duplicates by ID in case we are trying to populate duplicates into our list. Okay, so that I'm going to write inside our this index utils file. So here I'm just going to write one helper function which is going to help us remove duplicate images from our generated images list. Okay, so let me have this function name as remove duplicates by ID. Okay, so this is going to be generic, so let's extend this identifiable. So let me define one interface for this. So interface, I'm going to name this as identifiable, and this would have the ID which is of type number or a string. Okay, So here I'm just going to extend this identifiable, and this would receive the array of type t, okay, and this is going to return array of type t. Okay, so here let's return this object dot values and reduce this array. Okay, and here accumulator and then the current thing, and here what I'll do here, accumulator dot current dot underscore id is going to be current thing, and I'm just going to return the thing, this. Okay, fine, and after this I'm just going to return this as record of string or number comma t. Okay, fine, so this is going to help us remove the duplicate. So let's go back to our explore. So here I'll make use of this function which I've just written. So here remove duplicates by id and pass in this our whatever previous value and then the images. Okay, fine, so this is how we're going to update. Then that is it. So now if there is any error, we're going to handle inside our catch block. Okay, here I'm just going to console this. Okay, so here I'm just going to say some error and display that. Okay, fine, and in finally I'm just going to set is fetching to false. Okay, so here fine, so now this is the fetch function. So now let's focus on returning the UI part. Okay, so let's wrap everything inside div. Okay, and let's make this as a container. Okay, a margin x auto. Okay, and the max width, let's give this as screen excel. Okay, and the margin top I'm going to give it as 16. Okay, let's have the padding extension 3. Okay, fine, so here first thing is the div which is going to say some text like explore, and we're going to say like until now the something like until now it has generated this many images and all, so just that text. Okay, so I'm just going to add that div. Okay, so let's have the margin bottom 5. Okay, so here in for the header h2 I'm just going to give the styling. Okay, so let's have the animate text and add the background gradient for this, so to right. Okay, fine, and add this from teal 500 and via purple 500. Okay, and then to orange let's say 500. Okay, fine, and then add this background clip text and then text to make this as a transparent. Okay, and make the text size as 3 times XL and font type to be bold. So here I'm just going to add this explore. So let's try to export this and use this inside our home page. So that is here. Okay, after this I'm just going to use this explore. Okay, and I'm just going to pass this thing. Okay, so now let's check our UI. Okay, so this is the thing, explore. Fine, it's turning out to be good. Okay, fine, now after this here, after this header, let's add the additional text, okay, inside our p tag, and give some styling for this. Okay, give the margin type as 2, and I want text to be extra small. Okay, and if it's a small, let's make the text size to be small. Okay, so here I'm going to say, like, up until now our application, okay, has generated beautiful images. Okay, then we jolted to see what it can do for you. So something like this. Okay, fine. So now let's see this. Okay, fine. Good. It's okay, fine. So now let's continue. So after this div, we would have to showcase the list of the images in case we have generated. Okay, so this is where we will make use of the generated images list and try to render the list. Okay, so we'll wrap everything inside this div. Okay, so let's make this as a grid and have this 2 columns if it's a mobile screen. If it's a medium, I want calls to be 4. Okay, so and have the gap 4. Okay, so here let's make use of the generated images. So if this length is greater than 0, so then I'm going to map through each of the images. Okay, so here map and get the image model. Okay, so here let's render this div and give the key as image dot id. Okay, and the class name, let's make this as cursor pointer, and let's have the over effect. So let's have the scaling effect, so to 105, and I want the transition to be in all directions, so I will apply transition all, and let's make the duration to be 200. Okay, fine. And here let's have the on click things for this. So on clicking this, first we will stop propagating this event to parent, and then set image model state. Okay, here pre, and I'm just going to have this pre. Okay, and then open set to true. Okay, and the image source, it's going to be the image.image URL, and the prompt is going to be image.prompt. Okay, fine. So this, I'm just going to close this. Okay, so here, fine. So after this, inside this div, we will have that image. Okay, so let's add this image. Key is going to be image underscore id, and the styling for this, let's have the height as auto, and width let's restrict to the 80, and have this rounded large. Okay, and the source, it's going to be image dot image URL, and alt also, it's going to be prompt. Okay, so let's image dot prompt. Okay, fine. This is going to be showcased, and okay, after this, if is fetching is true, I'm just going to display some div with shading effect. Okay, so let's make use of the some array. So I'm just going to create some array of something like this. Okay, fine, and let's map through each element. Okay, and here let's have this div, and key, it's going to be element, and the styling for this div, it's going to be, let's make this height as 48, and if it's a larger screen, I'm going to make the height as 80. Okay, and the background gray color, let's apply lighter gray 200, and let's make the roundeds as larger. Okay, and if we are in a dark mode, let's make the background color to be a gray, darker gray 700, and let's make this animate pulse. Okay, So this is the div. Okay, let me close this div. Fine, so this only is fetching is true. So this is the explore UI part. Okay, so explore component UI part, but here let's add the so we'll have to call this fetch function. So we'll use this inside our use effect. So here inside this use effect, if it is not ended and it is not fetching, I'm going to call this function fetch. Okay, and this is going to depend upon the page variable. Okay, fine, and after this we'll add the event listener to scroll thing. So for that, because to add the more pages data if there are any. Okay, so for that I'm going to write the function which is let's name this as handle infinite scroll. Okay, so this is going to if window dot inner height, okay, plus document dot document element dot scroll top plus 1 is greater than or equals to document dot document element dot scroll height, then I'm going to update the page by 1. So here set page increment the value by 1. Okay, so this is going to increment this, so that let's handle in other use effect group. Okay, so this is going to be let's add the event listener. So I'm going to add event listener to scroll. Okay, fine. So and pass in this our function. So here in our cleaning, so I'm just going to remove this event listener. Okay, so window dot remove event listener scroll and call this infinite scroll. Okay, so this no dependencies. Okay, fine. So this is pretty much the explore component. Now going there to our the home page. So after this thing, so here after this explore, here we'll have to have the space footer spacer, and then as I said, depending upon the image model state and the set image model state and the error model, based upon whatever the value is there in our error model open, okay, we'll have to display those components. Okay, so first add the footer space. I'm just going to add here one div, add margin bottom for this, and leave it as empty div. So next is the for the image model, like this is for like when we click on generate button and the image is generated, we should view we should show one model with the image and the prompt and the option to copy and option to download, right? So for that we have to create one component, so we'll create that now. Okay, so let me create inside our components folder a new file. Let me name this as image model.tsx. okay, so fine. So let's create this component, so image model, and let's have the props for this. So let me define the interface for this. Okay, so image model props. Okay, this is going to have the two properties. One is the dialog state, which is of type image model state, which we have already defined, and the set dialog state callback function. So this is going to be of type dispatch set state action, so of type image model state. Okay, fine, and Now let's destructure this inside this component. So first is the dialog state, and then the set dialog state from our the image model props. Okay, so here the variables to keep track of is like, is the user clicked on this copy button, and is the user clicked on download button, and let's destructure the values from our dialog state, which is nothing but the image source and open and the prompt that we will be receiving. Okay, so let's write that. So first thing is copied, set is copied, so I'm going to set this to false by default. Okay, and the next is downloaded. Okay, so here set is downloaded, so let's make this also false by default, and let's destructure the image source, open, and the prompt from our dialog state. Okay, and let's have the reference to our model. So I'm just going to define model reference using our useref hook. So here HTML, it's going to be of type div element, so initially it's going to be none. Okay, fine. Let's focus on rendering the UI. So this is going to be a very big component, because we'll have to handle a lot of things here. Okay, fine. So first let's wrap everything inside a fragment and add one div. So here class name, I'll make use of the class names. Okay, so here I'll add the class name model, and then the backdrop blur. Okay, so I'm just going to blur everything, background thing. Okay, and here model open, I will set to the value we receive inside model open. Okay, so here after this div, inside this div we will have the label to close the model. Okay, then after this the image to be showcased, and then the prompt. Okay, and then the copy button, download button. Okay, so let's create div for that. So first it's going to, we'll have the styling model box. Okay, and make this as relative, and I'm going to add the reference for this, the whatever model reference. Okay, fine. So first thing, the label. So label, I'm going to give the styling for this. Let's make this absolute. Okay, and give this button go styling. Okay, and have this button circle and button, let's make this as a small. Okay, and the text I want it to be large, and make this color as button primary. Okay, and the position of this is right 3 and top 3, so that it will be in the top right section, and add the hover effect. So hover, we are going to make the scaling to 105, and the transition, let's make the hall. Okay, and the duration, let's keep it as 150. Okay, fine. And here on click, I'll have to write a function which is going to close this model. So let me write that. So just here below this, I'm going to write here the function called handle close. Okay, so here I'm going to set the dialog state whatever it is, and open, I'm going to set it to false. Okay, and then I'm going to call one more function which is going to clear the model content. So let's have that function too. So here clear model content. Okay, so here I'm just going to set the timeout. Okay, so inside this I'm just going to set everything, the dialog state values to default values. So open, it's going to be false, and the image source is going to be empty string. Okay, and the prompt also it's going to be empty string. Okay, so here timeout it's I'd set to be half a second. Okay, fine. So here I'm just going to call this so clear model content. So this I'm going to call if he clicks on this cross icon, that is closing icon. Okay, fine. So I'm just going to make this as X, capital X. Fine. Then after this label, let's have the div to showcase the image and the prompt. Okay, so let's have this overflow in y direction to be auto. Okay, and here we'll have the div to wrap the image inside in. Let's give the margin top 7. Let's make this widthful, and I want to be flex and justify to be center. So here the image thing, let's give the styling for this rounded to be corners XL. Okay, and the max height it can take is 96. So here the source it's going to be image source or else the empty thing. Okay, and halt it's going to be the prompt. Okay, so this is the image. Then after this div I'm just going to showcase the prompt inside the p tag. So I'm just going to give the margin bottom for this 7 and the margin top to be 4. Okay, and give the text center and the text to be this, and inside this I'm just going to show the prompt. Okay, fine. Next, right after this div we will have the buttons, like for the copying and downloading. Okay, so let's wrap this inside the div. Let's make this to be model action EO based on is copied. If this is true, we will have to display one button with SVG, and if not, we'll have to define display one more button with one more SVG. Okay, so let's have this type is button. Okay, and the styling, so let's quickly make this as a button and make this to be ghost. Okay, and the gap to be 2, and it is disabled. Okay, let's make this as a capitalize and add the background for this to be purple. I'm going to make this as medium purple 500. Okay, and I have no border for this, and hover effect I'm going to change the background color to 500. Okay, and the text color, let me keep this as white. Okay, so inside this we'll have to have the SVG. Okay, so let me have that. I have noted down inside here. So this is for this thing for copied SVG. So after this button SVG I'm just going to keep the text as copied. Okay, so here if not, we'll have to showcase the butter with one more SVG. Okay, so this is again the type button. Okay, and the class name, the stylings, let's make this as a button, give the gap 2. Okay, and capitalize the content. Okay, fine, and have the outline for this and have the border for this, and make the border color as purple, like medium purple color, and have the hover effect, let is change to lighter purple color, and the text color I want it to be purple. Okay, so let's make this something like 600. Fine, and on click here I'll have to handle copying this image. So let me write a function for that. So I'm going to name that as like handle copy image. Okay, so just here I'm just going to write this handle copy image. So let's make this as asynchronous. Okay, and this is going to receive URL as an input parameter. It can be null too, so let's make this. So if there is no URL, I'm just going to return this. Okay, if not, I'm going to call this function from our copy image clipboard library, so which is nothing but copy image to clipboard. So let me install that. Okay, so installing copy image clipboard. So I'm just going to use that now. So here copy image to clipboard. Okay, so here I will pass in the URL. Okay, and here I'm just setting is copied to true. If there is an error, I'm just going to alert saying that something went wrong. Okay, so this is the handle copy image function. So let's use this here. Here I'm going to call that handle copy image. So here let me pass in this image source. Okay, and here I'll have the one more SVG. So let's go back here. So this SVG, so I'm just going to use this, and just beneath this I'm just going to have the text to be copy. Fine, so that was for a copying thing. So just after this, for now, for the download thing, so is downloaded. So same thing, let's render one button with one SVG if it's downloaded true. Okay, so this type is button, and the styling for this, let's make this as a button, and gap will give it as a 2, and I want it to be disabled. Let's capitalize this, and background, let's add the purple. Okay, let's make it as a 500 and no border. Okay, and let's have the hover effect. Okay, so that is, let's change the background color to purple 500 and the text color to be white. Okay, so here again the one more SVG now. So let's go here. So this is the SVG, so let's use this, and the text is downloaded. Okay, now here if not, with one more button with other SVG. Okay, so this is type button. Okay, and styling, let's give button and the gap to be 2. Okay, and let's capitalize this and have no border, that is border none, and have the gradient to right direction. So fine, and the color, it's going to be from purple, let's say 500 to pink. Let's keep this to 500. Okay, and hovering, let's have the background gradient to left side. Okay, so here gradient to left directions. Okay, and focus, I want the ring to be 2. Okay, and focus, I don't want the outline, so let's set outline to none, and then focus, I want the ring color to be purple. So here let's have the purple 200. Okay, so this is the styling for this button. and here on click I'll have to handle the download thing. So let's write a function for that, similar to whatever we did for copying things. So here I'm just going to write a function. So here const handle download. So here which is going to be having a URL as an input param. So if there is a URL, so I'm just going to install one more library called file saver. So using that we'll try to download that. Okay, so here file saver. Okay, so here let me use that file saver. So let me import this. So just a second. Okay, so import file saver. From file saver. Okay, so just a second. Fine. Okay, let's import the types. npm install for file saver. Okay, so fine. So now I'm going to use that file saver dot save as. Save as the pass in the URL and the name, it's going to be download underscore new date dot to local date string. Okay, fine. So let's make this as png. So fine, and then I'm going to set is downloaded to true. Okay, so I'm just going to use that function here. Okay, so in the on click, so let me just here let me add the on click. So I'm just going to call this handle download by passing in the image source. Okay, so now inside this the svg for download. Okay, so let's go back here, the svg for this I'm going to add this, and the text of it, it's going to be download. Okay, so this is the image model. Okay, so now let's export this default image model. Okay, so let's make use of this here inside our home page. Okay, so let me import that. So after this I'm just going to use this image model and pass in the dialog state. So dialog state is going to be image model state value, and set dialog state, it's going to be the set image model state callback function. Okay, so similarly we should have the model for our error model, so that I'm going to take care. Okay, so now let's check the UI. Okay, so I did install file saver. Let me check. Okay, let me restart this. Okay, now it's fine. Okay, so here let's try to use this one thing, and let me select here it's as a large and try to click on this generate. Okay, there is an issue. Let me go back. Fine, let me check this. There is an issue because I'm not able to click on this. Well, now the issue is resolved. So issue was I was trying to access the data before even getting the data. So I changed the API calling using await and asynchronous way rather than the callback way. Then I was able to get the data. Okay, so now let me click on something like this and try to generate this. So now if you see it is in the loading stage. So once it is generating, so now it became true, and now the model the image model whichever we have defined, so it is showcasing here the small image and the prompt, and then the copy and download thing styling. So if you see now, so clicking on this, it's changing to the copied. Okay, so now the prompt will be copied, and clicking on this, it's downloading. So the both are working, and clicking on this, it should close the model. Okay, so now here refreshing here, now this whatever we generated, so it is sorted by the whichever is created the latest. Okay, so the list is also working, and this is also working and everything. So there is minor change, CSS, this is fine. So let me showcase you the things so here, so this was, if you see here, if I was trying to call this way, I was getting an error, so I changed to asynchronous and await for response, and then it was throwing even TypeScript error types too, but not now. So I'm just going to take off these things. Okay, so similarly for fetch images, I just changed it, returning here, listening for it, and response. Okay, now we have no issues, we are able to get the things and all needed. So here first in the header, I am supposed to add the GitHub SVG. Where is the header? So here, so let me add this. Okay, so let me go to, let me get the SVG. So here is the SVG for our GitHub icon. So let me use this SVG instead of this header text. Okay, so I'm just, okay, so now if we go to the output, now yep, the GitHub icon is fine. So now let's look into this the size selector. So going here to the size selector, so here in the size selector, if we check here for this button and the styling for this class name, if you see, okay, here is the problem in the padding. Why think there is an extra bracket, so that is an issue. So now if we go to our UI and check it out, okay, fine. So now it's looking good, so fine, and now it is cool, the styling wise. So now there is one more component pending, so that is we are trying to generate, but assuming our service is down, or there is some issue, so we should be able to show this error model message. So that components, let's go and build this. So I'm just going to create here a new component, so let's name that as an error model. So error model dot tsx. Okay, So let's create this error model and let's define props for this model. So this is going to be interface error model props. So it will have two properties. One is the open boolean, and then is set is open the callback function, which is of type just dispatch set state action. So this is going to be boolean. Okay, fine. So now let's destructure here. So open and set is open. Okay, so I'm going to destructure from this above props. So error model props. Okay, fine. So here here first thing is let's have the model reference to our div. Okay, so I'm going to create this model reference, so using the use reference hook. Okay, so this would be of type HTML div element. So let's initially set it to the null. Okay, fine. And here let's focus on rendering the UI now. So let's wrap everything inside the fragment. So first let's have the div. So this is going to have the class names. There's a model. Okay, and let's have the backdrop blur. Okay, small. And here after this I'm going to open this model based on the value present inside the open variable. Okay, fine. And let's close this div. So inside let's have the label, so same like we did for the other thing. So let's give the styling for this as a model box and make this as a relative and attach the user ref for this. Okay, so let's close this here and I'm attaching here the model ref. Okay, fine. So let's have the label, that is the into label, allowing the user to cancel the model that will be showcasing. And the styling for this, let's make this as absolute, and the button ghost. Okay, so the button circle and give the button and button small. Okay, text let's make it as a larger. Okay, and if you give the button primary color, and the position let's give right 3 and top 3, same as like we did for our image model. Okay, so let's have the hover effect, so let's scale it up to 105. Okay, and transition all. Okay, and duration let's give it as 150. Okay, so this is the styling for this label. So here we'll have to call the on click callback event. So here on clicking we'll close this. So let's write the function for that. So just here I'm just going to write the function which is going to say it as handle close, and in this I'm just going to set is open to false. Okay, fine. So here I'm just going to call this handle close, and here the label content let's keep it as a X. Okay, fine. So after this label let's have the div for our the error image and the prompt. Okay, so here let's give here this styling for this as overflow y auto. Okay, and first thing is the image. So let's here give here like margin top full 7 and width as full, and give the display as flex and justify center. Okay, so first is the image. So image, let's use styling for this. I want the rounded XL, okay, corners, okay, and max height it can take is 96, okay, fine. And the source, it here we'll have one error image, okay, so I'll add that inside the assets thing so that we can use that. For now I'm leaving this empty string, and here this halt will be internal server error, okay, fine. So after this image, let me close this, okay. After this image, inside a p tag will display the error message. So let's give the styling for this: margin bottom 7 and margin top 4, and the text, let's make it a centered, and the text base, okay, fine. So here I would say here I will say here internal server error, please try after some time, okay, just the some message, okay. So fine. So after this div, I'm just going to have the button to close it, okay. So let's give the styling for this: model action, and here we'll have the button, okay. So the type, it's going to be button, and the styling for this, let's give the button and the gap to and capitalize it, okay, fine. And on click, I'm just going to call this handle close, okay. And here the content of this button is going to be close. So this is the error model. So here let's export default error model, okay. So here before that, here we'll have to handle the handle click outside apart from this model thing, okay. So let's write that function. So here just beneath this, I'm just going to say here handle click outside, okay. So this is going to receive the mouse event, okay. So if model ref dot current and model dot current dot contains not contains, okay. So here let me not contains event dot target as node, we will just say is open to false, okay, fine. So this I'm going to use this inside our use effect hook. So let's have this use effect hook, okay. So here if open it's true, so I'm just going to get document dot body dot style dot overflow as hidden, okay. And then I'll add the event listener for click and call this and click outside, okay. Fine. Okay, so handle click outside, okay. So here let's complete this, else it's the opposite. So here document dot body dot style dot overflow is unset, and I'm just going to remove event listener, click, and pass in this handle okay. So here let's Okay, so let's not make the type as mouse event from React, let's make it as generic. Okay, so fine, and after this I'm just going to clean this remove this listeners, okay, in this function. So document dot body dot style dot overflow is will set it to the unset, okay, and the document dot remove event listener for click event listener, and call this handle click outside function. Okay, so fine, now this is it for our error model. So now what I will do is, I'll try to stop our server and check if this model is appearing it or not, and here we'll have to use this. So just below this image model, let's import that and try to display here. Okay, so here error model, okay, here open depends upon this error model open value, and here set is open, it's going to depend upon set error model open function. Okay, fine, so now let's check it out. Okay, so here let me stop the server, so I'm just stopping this. Now let's go here and try to refresh this. Okay, so I'm just going to use something, so I'm just trying to call. So if you see here, it is showcasing as the internal server error. I have not added any image, that's the reason it is showing like this, and internal server error, please try after some time. Okay, so now the handle click, it's we're able to handle it. Okay, so clicking on the other than the model, we're able to close that and all. Fine, so let's quickly add the image for that. Okay, so let me create inside a source folder a new folder called assets. Okay, and here I'm going to paste this image. Okay, so fine, so this is the image. Okay, now let's go to our the error model. So if you go here, I'm just going to import this into this component and let's use that. Okay, so I am going to import this, import error image from assets this. Okay, so let me use this here. Okay, fine, so now let's check it. Okay, so let's try to use this. Okay, fine, now it's successfully showcasing us internal server error, please try after some time. Okay, cool, so we can close this. Fine, now let me turn on the server back. So let me run this and let's go back, let's try to refresh. Yep, so now everything is working fine. So this is it, our application is successfully completed. Hope you guys learnt a lot, and this was very insightful application. I hope if you guys liked it, please like and subscribe, and yeah, thank you so much.